Hello, it's Meredith Waters on 103.9 Hope FM, where we bring hope, share joy and build community. And we love building community. We love getting out into the community and we love people coming to visit us. And so I am very excited to introduce you to Amanda Cruz and Adam Leuwinheart. G'day. They are from the Actors Hub, and so a long way from Perth, if that's where you're based. Mm-hmm. And very excitingly, there is a show on tomorrow night that they have written and that they are acting in. They're here to tell us a little bit about it, and we might even have a bit of a conversation about the previous time they came to Esperance. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
So, the show that's on tomorrow night, what is it and how did it come about?
The show is part of a trilogy of shows called the Blind Eye Trilogy, so what we might be turning a blind eye to in our current culture. And this is, interestingly, the third in the trilogy, Is There Anybody Out There?, which looks at how are we raising our children on romantic love, because apparently romantic love has become very important in our current culture. And are we setting our children up for failure in terms of the fairy tales we might be telling them about? It's exciting.
Yeah. How did that idea come about to write a piece about this?
So interesting because the first show, One Punch Wonder, which we brought here in 2021 to Esperance, was because in the school we had 4 boys in our final graduating year, and we wanted to create a show and look at specifically a verbatim piece. And we thought, well, it needed to be around masculinity, and so we looked at the one punch epidemic, which we later found out Australia is the capital in the world, in terms of the one punch. And it became a play about how we're raising our boys and what are the lies that we tell our boys that leads them to alexithymia, which is the inability to put their feelings into words, and then how that can have tragic outcomes. And it was very, very popular, and it started to tour around Australia. And FMG actually bought a season. They wanted their staff to come along. And then they said, FMG came to me and said, it would be really good if you did a show about domestic violence. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of work. But we started to interview people around the world, and it was during COVID, so it was around the world. And it became a very interesting look at how we're raising our girls and the lies that we're telling our girls about their role in romantic relationships and the programming around that makes it very difficult for them to leave relationships that perhaps are not very supportive or don't nurture them very well. And the fairy tales and how that's all playing a part. And all the shows started to become a look at how in our current culture we as a community are actually responsible because we're telling these stories, and how it's affecting our children, and then they're growing up and becoming adults very, very confused around these issues.
If the topic was easy, we wouldn't have it as a problem, would we?
And it is a fascinating topic, and we've been really interested in the response to Is There Anybody Out There? Because I think there's this, you touch on domestic violence, it must be a really challenging, depressing show. And it's not, because it's verbatim and you've got people telling their stories. Sometimes it's like there's a lot of fun. It's very funny at points, and people feel empowered at the end of the night, because that's the point, it's a catalyst for conversation. So they're empowered to share their stories and search for solutions in terms of how we as a community going to address these issues and support the members of our community who may be experiencing these things in their lives. So it's a fun show.
Fairy tales, fun and grit.
Yes.
Love it. So Adam, how did you come to be in the show?
I've worked with Amanda for a long time. I work with Amanda on a lot of projects together as a team, but also external projects. I work with her as a coach. And she'd been working on Is There Anybody Out There? I'd done One Punch Wonder. We've been actually very fortunate to tour every year since 2018. There was this role that was coming up as she was writing it, and we had a chat about it, and she thought I'd be pretty good for the role. And so then I started in it in 2021, and it's the same thing. I've been a part of it every year since. It's been a very fascinating role to have, both as an actor and what you learn of that, but also as a person, and it kind of helps you think about the kind of man you want to be in your community and the relationships you want to have. And the responsibility of masculinity is a real thread throughout all these shows. And so then I've been working on it for a couple of years and find it really rewarding going into communities and having a yarn with people about those ideas that the show brings up.
Yeah, it's a beautiful role where a gentleman, his friend held him accountable in terms of his behaviour, where he would break things or, smash things when he got angry, and his friend held him accountable. It's just a really beautiful story, so it's a great character.
And again, it's a real story from Australia on the East Coast. And his friend, he says, he's like, he didn't yell at me, he didn't swear at me, but he was angry about what I was doing, and he talked to me about it. And it was the talking that opened up his eyes to, oh, what I'm doing has violence in it. I thought that I was not being violent. I thought I was moving away from this kind of thing by smashing stuff, punching holes in the walls, stuff like that. He really starts to reflect on what is violence, and again, who do I want to be? What's the kind of person that I want to be in my community and with my partner and with my family? It's a very brave discussion this guy had, and really fundamental when we start exploring what our culture could be and how amazing it could be to live here in this country, how lucky we are now and how much better we would make it.
And so a key point there, you've mentioned a couple of times, it's about the talking, it's about the yarning. And so a key feature of this production, it's not just about the presentation, is it? There is conversation to be had afterwards.
Yeah, it's a catalyst for the conversation, these beautiful community conversations that where are we afforded the forums to have these sorts of conversations with our community. There's people out on the coalface, dealing with these issues. We speak to the medical staff, like at One Punch Wonder, the One Punch attack, and all the we interviewed all the medical staff and the families, and it's like what they need is communities coming around them to support them in these issues, a community approach, which I think in terms of One Punch Wonder, Stuart actually calls out for a community approach to this growing problem within our communities.
Yeah, and I found it funny, the Hope FM thing is bringing hope, sharing joy and building community. And that really aligns with what matters to us about these shows, the reason I keep coming back to it. While I'm really proud of the shows, I have a lot of fun doing them. I think they're really high quality. It's the post-show conversation that is the really, really rewarding part. Both the conversations I have, but the ones that I see across a community and intergenerationally. People have these conversations that they just wouldn't have otherwise, and I think are really important and really valuable. It's that building community and how we can always do better in that sense and always have better relationships with people around us. That is really at the heart of the shows.
Which I'm very grateful for. I was really moved by One Punch Wonder. I know that lots of people regretted when we talked afterwards that they wished they went to see it. What I really want to emphasise is don't miss this show, not just for the presentation, because I'm sure it will be amazing, but also for the catalyst that it can be to open up conversations with people. And the conversations sometimes are hard. And if it was easy, we would have solved the problem already. But we know that in this town, definitely domestic violence is an issue. And we know across the world, and that includes Esperance, sense of identity for women and for men. And so if we can start to have the conversation, I am sure that good solutions will follow.
Also, we've got to look after our children, and in our schools at the moment, what they're facing in terms of isolation through phones and coercive control. We bring this great little situation into the schools where the students get to unpack it and come up with ideas of how to change it, and they can dive in and step up and take on character roles, which is a lot of fun. But it's helping them identify what are the red flags, and there's no perpetrator in the story. It's men and women, or boys and girls, interacting in a way that they think is normal because of what they've seen television or in films or reading in books or seeing. We had this very interesting story about how people are using ChatGPT to sort of have conversations with each other.
Wow.
As, how do you smooth talk a girl into, going on a date with you, and so they get ChatGPT to...
Oh.
Yeah, so it's getting really confusing, I think, out there in the dating world. And so I think we need to look after our kids. An invitation, Esperance, to come out and join the conversation so that we can come up with some ideas of how we can look after our children.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about the show. It obviously deals with some things that need talking about, and so it's developed in a way that is really engaging. I think we can all agree that domestic violence is bad and that we really care about our children and want them to have a better, healthier, happier future. And so I don't think anyone disagrees on that point. And so the focus of the show is far more on, so what can we change? What are the dynamics between men and women that we can have responsibility over as good men, as good women, as people who care about the people around us? What are the things we have control over, and how can we make a better place for our kids moving forward? And the show is a really great night out and a great community conversation starter about these things in a really safe way.
Yeah, we also set up the foyer to they're sort of on-ramps in terms of the information, and part of the foyer experience is Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus questions. So people come in with their partners or, just their friends, and there's these questions on the wall and you start to answer them and it's like arguments ensue. It's like really a beautiful kind of like, what? Like, I can't believe you think that. Men and women are really different.
It's so funny. It is a really just a wonderful part of that, conversations that spark up, and that kind of wonderful disagreement about, I can't believe you think that, and the differences between men and women, and it's a really special place, that for.
I remember when we were choosing the questions, the actors, and there was some audience there when we were choosing the questions that we were going to put in the foyer. Boy, did it erupt into a massive conversation. But it was awesome. It was very, very funny and a lot of fun.
I love that you've paid such attention to detail. It's not just the coming and sitting in your seat, but it starts from the moment you step through the door to be entertained, but also a little bit of education or a lot, and the opportunity or the invitation to consider a way to be different.
We were talking about diversity before, and some very interesting facts on the wall, and one of those is films and the percentage of male lines to female lines, even in Frozen, which was supposed to be, the big film that actually tells the female story. So you can see that the female story isn't really being told, and so what happens to our young girls when they're not hearing their stories? And that's across all cultural things, all gender things. Like, what happens when our story isn't being told? And I think we as communities across the world are starting to pay attention to that and trying to bring in stories from all perspectives, so that every individual is starting to go, oh, my story's being told. Because when we tell our stories, we start to understand ourselves, and I think that's a really important part of the show.
We've covered a lot, and there is more. We could probably talk all afternoon, but I do know that we need to get going. Most importantly, as well as the content and what we've talked about, how do people get tickets, and how do they come and be a witness to this amazing event?
Part of the event.
So we're on at the Esperance Civic Centre at 6 p.m. this Wednesday, the 20th of August. If you want to get tickets online, if you go on the Shire of Esperance website or the Civic Centre website, or if you go on Google and search up, is there anybody out there, Esperance? It's the first link. You can book tickets. Tickets have been made free by the Civic Centre because they really want to engage this community in the discussions of the show, and they don't want there to be any barrier to access. We've had a really great uptake by being here, and we're really looking forward to the conversations we get to have with you guys after the show.
I think that's really cool. Is there anybody out there, Esperance? ?
That's a perfect way to conclude. I want to thank you so much for your time today and for bringing this show to Esperance. And obviously you're on tour. I am very excited to see in the years to come the changes that will happen because of your choice to tackle this topic and present it and create spaces for people to find better resolutions.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Really, really enjoying it. Really enjoying meeting community.
And thanks for having us, and thanks for the job you do in building community. And it's super important and very exciting to be here.
Thank you. What song would you like to have played after this interview?
Yeah. I think there's a really powerful, a classic song by Tracy Chapman called Fast Car. I'm sure you know it. I think not only is it a brilliant song, a beautiful song, it really speaks to that exploration of romantic love and this fairy tale, this idea, this hope that turns when reality kind of shows its face and has a real tragedy through it, that I really think speaks to what this show is exploring, which is the highest highs of love and the lowest lows of them, and what do we want love and romance and connection to look like in this modern world. So I think it's a classic song that really speaks to the heart of, is there anybody out there?
Thank you so